Yes.
All right, that looks good.
My wife's very
All
good with that.
Okay, so maybe let's start. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So today, actually, I'd like to do something a bit different.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to ask maybe some questions about what's happening with. I wanted to do this with with the teams, but okay. Okay, maybe we can do that later at the half an hour later. Okay, so basically, okay, a few questions I'm going to ask, okay, and maybe we can spend some time trying to answer, then share the response. Would it be all right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
So okay, so I guess the first is what would be a goal that you're right now looking to accomplish, like personal, professional. Okay, so that will be the first. Okay.
Right, you're just asking me that.
Yeah,
Or
I mean we can
making this.
maybe jot down some answers first.
Okay.
Okay. Are you in your office or home?
No, I'm in my car.
You're in your car. Okay. Okay. All right.
I had to take my wife somewhere, so I'm sat in the car waiting for her.
Oh, I see. Okay. So when will that be?
She'll be about an hour.
Oh,
So I've
I
got
see.
about an hour.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So maybe what would be a goal that right now you're trying to accomplish, right? So that would be the
Okay.
first. Okay. And
We're talking about long term or short term?
can be short term. Can be short term.
All right.
Okay. All right. Just one goal. Just one goal. Yeah. When something you like to. Okay. So the second question that would be is what would be a 10x version for that?
Okay.
You just think of. Okay. Okay. So done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. And the third question will be so what is the okay. So if this is okay, hold on a sec. So basically, okay. So given what you just think of, okay, what would be the main concern in going about this goal?
What, the 10x version or the standard goal?
The 10x version. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Done. Okay. All right. And what would be opportunity that would happen if you can, if the concern is gone, if you can address that? What doors would that open? What possibilities would that,
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. And finally is how would you like to, I guess, apply to achieve that, I guess this goal? What would you like to contribute to personally to achieve that? You're muted.
How does that mean?
Okay. Now.
Oh. Hold on a second. Why has it done this? It's gone and flipped to the speakers on the. I want them on my earphones, not my stupid laptop.
I don't know why I did that. It just suddenly went to my mobile.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
No,
Okay.
back again. Yes.
All right. Okay. So I'll done.
I don't understand the last question. Didn't make much sense to me.
Okay.
What do I have to
The
achieve?
last question is how would you like to
personally?
apply? Yeah. I mean, what would you like to contribute most directly to accomplish that goal of yours? can be either your, I guess, your something, your skill, your strength, your uniqueness, or I guess aspects of some part of the task of the goal.
Yeah, I mean it's all around me anyway, so it's intrinsically part of me. There's no kind of separation between what one wants to do and what one has to do.
Okay, all right. So maybe we can do a share then, okay? If
Sure.
you're done. Yeah. Okay, all right. So what's the goal you pick?
It's 10xing income sec in 3 years.
Okay. Oh, okay. So 10x income
So
sec, okay.
Yeah, so if we're going to 10x the 10x, it's 100x, isn't it? So I don't think 100x in 3 years. Oh well, we'll see, but you know, it's doable.
Okay. So the first is 10x in 3 years. Okay. So basically a 10x version would be 100x, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what's the main concern?
Me.
Okay. Okay. And what aspect? What aspect though? What aspect?
Well, whatever the goal is, I think it boils down to there are factors that you can control, and those are the factors that you can factors that you can control are the ones that you have influence over. So I have influence over myself. What do I not control? I don't control anything else, anybody else. So no matter, for instance, if you and I were working in a employer-employee scenario, or if you were supplying services to me, you know, whatever the scenario is, right? Because you're external, I have no control over you. Now, if I sat there and said to you, Shunjun, I want you to write this sales report before the end of the day, right? You'll go, yeah, okay, I'll get that done. Yep. Now, what we can't control is whether or not there's a bunch of sales calls, there's a bunch of distractions and so on and so forth, which prevent you from doing that. Or indeed that you just say, yes, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then you don't do it because it wasn't enough of a priority to you. So tomorrow we end up with something that we don't, you know, that isn't the result we want. So in that context, then how do I manage that? And how do I make that happen, even though there are other distractions on you? See what I mean? So it all boils down to me, regardless of whether or not I've given a task to somebody else. I'm only using you as an example because we're on the call.
Okay.
But
I see.
You know, if it was something else or somebody else, then there's always, you know, the distractions and what is urgently put on top of other people when you're waiting for them, you're depending upon them. You have to be able to manage that. So, and then the other part of me is, if I am wanting to achieve a goal, what do I have to do, and how do I have to change myself and what I do to ensure that I can achieve that goal?
Okay, I see.
Because the goal doesn't happen just because you wish it. The idea of going, oh well, I'm going to visualize myself as being this sort of shape, right? This outcome. Just because you say it and you visualize it and you think you're going to get it, it doesn't manifest itself because you just think that.
No.
You have to put in the effort to get there, and that requires work. And I read something this morning. It's called it's the Peter principle, or the Peters principle, and that's basically a manager is hired to their level of incompetence. So
incompetence, okay.
You know, because here's the thing, right? You do really well, right? And you get rewarded with either payment or a promotion or both, right? So you step up. You do really well, you step up, and you keep going until you reach some point where you're incompetent to go any further. And in fact, you might even be incompetent at doing what you're doing at that level.
Okay.
So there's a point at which you have to kind of realize that you are incompetent, and that once you've realized that, you have to set about making those changes. Now, as an employer, one thinks about that. Well, is this person competent to do the tasks that we want them to? Because we want to reward them because they've worked really hard, but are they actually competent? And this is what, in all of this stuff is what coach is teaching us in terms of, you know, setting up the whatchamacallit, what are the four numbers that we do, not print, the other one. I can't remember anyway, but you know, I'm a 4-5-7-4 or
the
whatever.
Colby, right?
There we go. So that's what doing Colby is for, right? It's what working out, you know, what your ultimate team looks like and all the rest of it. It's working through that stuff and knowing. But you see, here's the thing: if I sit there and what I realized today is one of the reasons why I'm doing all of this and paying for all of this stuff is because I've recognized in myself a level of incompetence. My competence has been to get.
There's an awareness.
Yeah, I am competent to get the company to a certain stage, and to take it further, I am incompetent. Hence why I'm changing that whole process by educating myself on how to become more competent. And that's an ongoing process. Anyway,
great.
That's rather a long-winded kind of answer.
But that's a great thoughtful response. All right. So what is the opportunity that would happen if you are able to address this concern of yourself?
Well, I think the opportunity is that it creates a self-managing company that will actually allow me to work on it 30 days a year. And that is an opportunity to allow me to do other things with the same amount of time. So I was talking to a customer on Friday, and he said, "I don't ever think you'll ever be retired, Michael, because you can't stop." And I really don't want to be retired. The idea of retiring and sitting around doing very little or less is just ridiculous. I enjoy.
Not compelling, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I would love to do. It'd be really nice right now, Shunyan, if I wasn't sat in my car outside somebody's house waiting for my wife, because she's actually having some Reiki, right? But to be sat in the lounge of a nice hotel while she's having the Reiki treatment in the spa area, and that would be in a nice environment somewhere where it's always hot, you know, and there's a nice warm sea to go and swim in, but still be able to do other things as well. So, you know, that's kind of like that. There's a difference there. I'd still be doing the same work, but I'd be doing it in a more comfortable scenario, surroundings.
Okay, nice. All right. So what would you contribute to, I guess, to this 100x goal?
I'm contributing my time and my money and my effort, my energy.
Okay.
So I'm investing everything that I have in
money, effort. Okay.
Yeah. Focus, drive, energy.
Okay. Is there something more specifically that you think uniquely yours that you're contributing towards that, or that you can or want to contribute towards that 100x? Sorry, the 100x income sec.
Well, it's just my increasing ability to make it happen. I don't understand. I can't see it beyond that.
I guess within the time, money, effort, ability, right? Is there like a quality of yours that you like to contribute the most towards that?
I suppose for it to happen, I need to blend my strategic thinking with tactical application, and and that's it. And then basically have courage.
Okay.
To take the actions that need to happen.
Right. Okay. And also courage for action. Okay. Wow. Excellent. All right, thanks for sharing. All right, so I'll share mine. Okay.
Sure.
All right, just okay. So I list down the current goal as preparing for the ICO. Okay, that's that you know to be done by first quarter. Now a 10x goal will be to have Ian's approval in 3 weeks instead of 3 months. Okay, because he mentioned that typically it takes 3 to 6 months to actually do this. So a 10x will be to do that in 3 weeks as opposed to 3 months. Now the concern is right now how to align the incentives, I guess the ability incentives of a group of people towards that. Because I know very well this is a goal that I cannot do it myself alone. Okay, so likely requiring, a teamwork of people. But how to align everybody, right, towards that same direction? That is the right concern. The opportunity, well, that would be to actually get the preparation done, at least 80%. That's launchable with the approval, and actually get the $15 million ICO complete, over time or within this year. So that will be the big opportunity to happen. Now, what I would like to contribute, I think it's mostly I list out vision and habits. Okay, so I guess these are the 2 things I think, maybe also strategy, but vision and habits probably are 2 things that I feel I can contribute in terms of helping people to build up. Yeah, okay, so yeah, so I guess
what's a habit?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean you're going to contribute a habit?
I guess it's about building up routines, structure, I guess, towards getting something done, so that it becomes automatic. Well, I guess it's about I have built up some personal habits which might be helpful in terms of building up a team habits. Okay, if we were to scale up this, so that this actually can be done through a routine as opposed to willpower. I guess, yeah, the other thing may be environmental design. So those are the things, but vision stands out as the biggest. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess maybe time for some feedback. Okay. So would you like to provide feedback for the what I just shared?
Well, you've told me about what you want to contribute, and you've told me what you want to 10x. You haven't told me what the opportunity.
Oh, okay. The opportunity is to actually get the 15 million, get an ICO, a $15 million ICO done by the first quarter.
But that's a goal. Q1. It's not an opportunity.
Oh, okay. So I guess the opportunity would be to actually launch a real estate tokenization platform. That could be a dominant.
That's still a goal.
Dominant
it's not an opportunity.
That's still a goal.
That's not an opportunity, is it?
Okay.
The goal is to do something. So you're talking about 2 tangible things. We'll raise an ICO of 115 million by. That's a goal, which will then enable us to have the tokenized platform. Okay, so I suppose you might argue that the goal of 15 million will enable the platform, but then those are 2 kind of goals, really, because you want to own the goal. But what's the opportunity? What does that do? What does that enable you to do?
Okay.
What's the opportunity?
Okay. Well,
because at the end of the day, your opportunities within the coach thinking, which is where Ben gets his stuff from, is, I believe, about identifying your why. So that when things are hard and you want to understand how to move forward, you come back to your opportunities, and your opportunities give you your reason why you maintain your motivation, your drive, and your determination to achieve the goal that you identified.
Okay, I see. So if it's that light, then I think that would be, well, okay. If it's not light, then that would be to actually create a really strong engine for UBI to happen.
For what?
And also, okay, and also
UBI.
towards, yeah, for basically for you know, for JCFs to move closer toward its 1 billion people by 2040 goal. I think that would become a really strong engine for that, towards that. And also the other thing will be, you know, tokenization platform could help the future eco villages that I want to build to happen faster. So in other, you know, as opposed to 20 years, maybe that would happen sooner. Let's say by 10 years, right? Cut the time in half, for example, because I was thinking that would happen, realize maybe as a 20-year thing. But if this tokenization platform actually happens, that actually provides the opportunity to secure fundings and, you know, I guess build the connections, build the mechanisms to make things forward faster.
Right there, as more feedback, what you said to me was, if this tokenization happens, then it will provide.
Right.
So is it not better to say when this tokenization platform happens, or the tokenization of this platform happens, it will create the opportunity to hit UBI? So it's not a question, by using if or maybe, that's all language which is, you're almost saying it's not going to happen because you're unsure. You're saying when.
Oh, when it happens. Okay, all right, okay, right.
You're certain about the actual outcome, right?
Right.
Question then becomes, when will when be? Well, when will be in a quarter? When will be in 10 years?
Okay.
When will be in 20 years, or whatever it is?
Right. When the 50 million is raised and platform is built, that provides a strong engine for, you know, JCF's 1 billion people vision, and also move faster towards building eco villages, maybe cutting down the time in half. Okay, so essentially that would be a really strong engine of growth. I think if the real estate tokenization platform is built, I think that's the big opportunity. Yeah. All right. So maybe some feedback on my side for your 100x goal. Okay. So I guess one feedback has been I guess team. Okay. There's something that came to my mind is about teamwork. It's I can see that you have a emphasis on your own responsibility, on your, I guess, things on your end, on your, you know, capability, on your control, right? I think it's good to think that, you know, by thinking about things that's within your control. But there may be times when you're not being pulled by yourself, but by the environment around you. Okay. So I guess it's my feedback will be try to create or find an environment that actually pulls you forward towards that 100x thing. Okay. As opposed to, you know, relying purely on your own. Because I guess when you're in the right environment and there's a pulling force, you don't have to rely as much on your own capability incentives, your willpower. I guess that's my feedback. Okay.
Yeah.
Just about environmental design. That's all I'm saying. Okay. And see if creating such an environment would help. Okay. One direction to think. All right.
What would be an example of that?
What would be an example? Okay. So for example, like if let's say if income tax has been tasked or been charged with a really huge client to fulfill its various wants, needs, requirements, whatever. And that client just trusts you, you just got this client that is really demanding everything you got and more, right? Then you are forced to upgrade under that circumstance, right? In terms of capabilities and all that, right? I mean, if such a client actually demands, right, or a situation demands, then no longer it's about you are thinking about how to move forward planning. It's about that, that external force that's driving you. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's an example. The other example would be, I think this is, I have found that in my own context, sometimes if I'm working with a mentor, I'm trying to, think of a recent example, just catching up with someone who's like taking you, moving forwards. You might also find yourself, I guess, upgraded because of that. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would apply in your situation, but it's a couple of things I've, thought of. Yeah. So one book I've been actually listening to is called The Third Door. You might have heard of that. There's the front entrance. Third Door.
Oh yeah.
It's a really interesting book. Okay, about a college kid trying to get the likes of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Tim Ferriss to interview and his quest, right? So yeah, and basically he's gone on a really a 10x journey on many fronts to get that. So the first door is the to the top. It's where everybody lines up, right? You have to wait a long time. The second is a VIP door, and the third is somewhere in the back alley, right? You take your back, right? You knock, and you find the pathway towards the window. So, all right. So, Mike, thanks for the conversation. All right. So, let's maybe jump to the discussion. Okay. So, I did a bit of work, and I guess I'll share my screen.
My internet is pretty poor at the moment. Oh no, it should be better.
Okay, let me stop my video. Okay, it's can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So this is what I like to share. Okay, so so I guess there's one thing you want to talk about. It's what's the thing, right? That we're actually doing. What is the business opportunity we're talking about? And so this is the revenue model forecast, which I dug up from some materials about the global realty market, Taiwan market. Okay. So the global is this is 2021 figure. Global is $11 trillion US dollar, and Taiwan is 65 billion, 0.5 billion. So that's the platform can do a 5%. Okay, so that's kind of a conservative estimate.
Well, actually, so Junyun,
yeah,
that's nice. That's a target.
Okay.
And the reason why you've come up with 5% is because you just thought, well, 5% is not very much. Can we do that? The more, I think, what you might want to do then is look at who are the other players in the marketplace, because it's quite a saturated market.
Right.
In Taiwan, for instance, how many banks are there? How many
I would
banks
say
are?
a dozen or so banks. Actually, Taiwan has a lot of banks. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a dozen banks.
Right.
Maybe you've got, investment firms, pension funds.
Right.
Maybe, if you've already got, let's say you've already got 100 players in the marketplace.
Right.
And they all want market share.
Right.
So just for the Taiwan thing, you're competing against, another 100 players.
All the banks and all the, the what's called the money lenders.
Yeah.
Underground money lenders.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you've already got that to compete with, 5% of your Taiwan share,
right?
Is that realistic?
Realistic. Oh, okay. All right.
And here's the thing.
Right.
It might be a target, but
right.
unless you've got something which is a compelling argument beyond that of, well, I can borrow the money from the bank.
Okay. So, I mean, this could also be something that we create, right? Because of this is a better mechanism, it's an easier mechanism. It could also help enlarge the market for, let's say, people or projects that otherwise would not have been able to secure funding, right? So, all right. So I guess just bear with me because this is that's a good question. Okay, let me just finish this part. Will that be all right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And out of that, let's say the market share, we are able to earn a 5% fee. Okay. So that's actually a 10% fee, but 5% might, we might share that with with ICO advisors, like Ian's, or other partners. So that's $163.7 million. Okay, and I see you're adjusted. I'm using your figures now because I think you have allocated a 1.5 plus 2 million fundraise, right, in 2 rounds for the platform. So I'm using the 3.5 million as the number now. Okay.
Right.
And if that's the initial investment, 5% market share, then that's essentially the ROI capital, 46.7%, times. And this is something that could be during the course of 3 years. Okay, so that's an initial estimate. Okay, a very rough one, but kind of gives a picture of what we're talking about. Okay. Now the obviously happy to refine this. And the other thing I'd like to share is this. Okay, so it's the tokenomics. So what I've done is I went over what you have written. Okay, in terms of your design, right? There is a few things where I'm not very sure. For example, like whether the experts advisor here, are you talking about 50K for each one of these? Okay, which would add up to about 200K. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Or okay, all right. So
I mean,
okay.
it's up to us, right? Does it work?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Work,
but okay,
no.
that's fine. That's fine because that's what I thought. Okay. So basically, I see you have designed basically both token numbers and also ratios. Okay. And also in terms of the collaborator, I can see that you have dedicated 14 and 10%. Okay. So I take all that. Okay. Okay. Staff paying salary. And I basically translate that into my language. Okay. So, basically my attempt is to merge our proposal. Okay. And like to explain, I have decided to change the wording for this, thanks to your feedback last time, which is as opposed to investor, designer, builder, I'm now calling them investors, management, and professionals. So IMP tokens. Okay, so different tokens. And okay, so actually, I wrote a blog this morning explaining the impact framework. Okay, so that's, I think I've shared that in Slack, but okay, I'll double check. Okay, so basically the I tokens, you can think of them as, okay, so one thing I realize is that with traditional, let's say companies, you can pay people by shares or by cash, right? Those are the two main instruments that people have used. And the difference is shares basically represent power and profit, okay? Also ownership, okay? So power in terms of voting, profit, profit sharing. Ownership is, I refer to that as, dividing the, let's say the company is liquidated, right? Then you can get a share of that based on the shares. And, cash is cash. However, what I'm saying here is proposing that it's possible with tokens, we could design something different and more flexible. So the power and the profit part can be decoupled. Okay, so right now I'm reframing, your design in terms of this framework. So basically, investors, they are getting I tokens. Okay, so the vote and profit are the same. Okay, meaning the power and profit sharing are the same ratio, so 24. Now the management tokens, that would be more like, I guess, traditional, basically shares by management. And here, I think you have allocated 76% in total. Okay, I'd like to confirm with you, and into two parts. One is the founder, which is 66. The other is the management, 10%.
So, well, okay,
just
so
make sure. Yeah, is that correct?
24 and 76 makes 100. 66 is 166. 10 is 176.
No, sorry. I'm saying that this is the breakdown. So the M tokens is total 76%, and it's breaking down into founders and management. I'm taking, I'm referring back to what you have written here. Okay, because I think.
But I don't. What percentage of what?
The percentage of the total number of, I guess, token shares. So here, these two parts, 24 and 76, they add up to 100.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Okay. So I think this is what you are, and right now I specifically using voting and profit sharing rights here. Okay. Because in the
so founders and management get a percentage of
M tokens.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, of the M tokens. Yeah. Okay. So
of what?
So when you talk about what?
Yeah, well, again, we're coming. So the thing is, this a percentage of tokens from what? What are we doing?
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so
we still need to identify what the business is, because who's going to invest in a business that isn't a business? But you need an idea, and you need to illustrate how you're going to make profit.
Okay, all right.
Because otherwise, you're not. If you can't illustrate, you're not making profit. Then you can actually sit there and go, well, all right, I'm going to get 66% or 26% or whatever the percentage is of that profit.
I see. That to answer that, I think it goes back to this thing. Okay, I guess the revenue, and then we might.
Yeah, but that's just you're kind of guessing that you might get 5% of 65 billion.
Right.
Well,
right now that is
not strong enough.
Okay.
Well, that's not strong enough. That's just a guess.
Okay. Yes.
And if you sat there and said, if I had $15 million, these numbers don't add up. They're not. It's not strong enough.
Okay. All right.
And if Ian's going to sit there, I mean, maybe Ian doesn't give a shit, right? Maybe Ian just sits there and goes, "Well, I don't care because I'm going to get 1.5 million when you raise 15 million. So what do I care what you're going to do?"
Okay.
You know, maybe it's as simple as that for Ian, right? But besides all of this, well, you got to qualify and you got to be da 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 da. At the end of the day, he doesn't really care because he's going to get 10% of whatever he raises.
Right.
But if I'm sitting there going, well, all right, we're entering into a market that is very immature and very volatile, but at the same token, people have understood that crypto is not going to make quick money. So we're delivering a service using blockchain and the tokenization of assets.
Right.
And that needs to be very compelling. 5% of a global market, yeah, it sounds nice, but why would anybody utilize us? And so the thing is, this, whether or not it's 24% or 25%, it's kind of that doesn't matter. We just need to conceptualize it, because what matters is it's 25% of 24% of what?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you asked this last time as well. Okay, so
what's the business
I think,
model?
Right. I think
how
you're
are you
referring
gonna how are you gonna get that 5%?
Okay,
of the global market? How are you going to do that? What is it that's going to make it happen?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So probably, I think to make this more, okay. So obviously there's going to be some, I guess some numbers as well. Okay. One of the things, okay. All right, I don't know if this helps, but let's say if Henry, right? If Henry is happy to tokenize one of his estate project with us, right? And to tokenize using our platform, right? The platform we're about to create. And basically he's looking for a certain amount of funding, right? Or I guess to tokenize partially his assets, maybe not entirely, but maybe partially, right? And let's say he has a property that is okay. Maybe I'll use some real numbers. So I think right now they have 6,000 units, right, to rent, right? And and he's generating annually probably $20 million in revenue. Okay, with that many units. Okay, so
600.
6,000, yeah.
6,000.
Right. So sorry, 20. Right, because each unit, okay, each unit is probably a $400 rent on average. Okay, so if you times that by 6,000, that's I think that's 2.4 million a month, right? So yeah, I think it's over 20.
Yeah, so it's going to be over. It's going to be over 25 million, then, isn't it?
Right. 25 million a year, right? I mean, roughly that's the number we're looking at, right? So that's how much he's taking in, right? But obviously he has to pay the landlord as well, right? So there. I know they take a service fee of 10%, right? So that's maybe if we use that as a rough number, then
Did you? I tell you what, Shinyon,
mhm.
did you look at the? Well, you did, because in Slack I posted that stuff, and you said I'm going to have to understand the numbers.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
what is it you don't understand about those numbers?
Okay, so you said you post on Slack. The okay, on the board or
Yeah.
okay, all right. So I don't. Okay. Oh, okay, all right. So maybe I should. Can you share screen now, or I'll have to do that here?
Yeah. Bear with me a second. Where is it? Share screen.
I have found that, but okay, I'll stop sharing. I'll get the. Okay.
No,
See your
that didn't
sharing.
work, did it? Why did it do that? I didn't ask for that one.
You
I
can
asked for
share the
this one.
entire screen. You can share the entire screen if you like.
Where's the share screen? Oh, I wanted this one. Right, there we go.
Ah, okay, right, okay. I see it now. Okay.
Right.
Board, yeah.
Right. So there you go. Right. So thanks, Mike. Might want to learn what the numbers mean. Let's do this in the next session.
Okay, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an example. Okay. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, I can see the numbers. Yeah.
All right. So what are we? We're providing a service, right? So the service is the opportunity to use blockchain to tokenize physical assets, or and in this example, property.
Right.
And it enables people to raise funds utilizing this tokenization process.
Right.
And gives investors some security in terms of the smart contracts and whatnot. Okay,
right.
Fine. So why is that? So that's no different to standard forms of finance, other than it's a tokenization, and it's using smart contracts and blockchain. But it's still what we're doing. If you look at your marketplace, your market environment, you've got a load of competitors. And again, do this with Porter's Five Forces or FreeHag. You go through the same process of understanding what the market is and where the competitors are, right?
Okay, right.
And so you have to understand what that is, because you might think that this is the most amazing thing ever, but the market will compare. You don't know how the market is going to compare you against what is already there.
Right. That's existing players and existing solutions, right?
Well, so Henry is going to sit there and go, what does Henry want? I would imagine he wants the same as most people who want to borrow money. They want the cheapest cost of finance and with the most favorable terms, so that they can make the most amount of profit.
Yes. Sure.
That's what I want.
Right.
Now, I'm actually looking at refinancing our portfolio with a commercial mortgage, which will then allow me to pull out over £100,000.
Okay.
Where doing it in another way, fine. So, what is the standard format for this? Well, there's an application fee.
Right.
An application fee will cost anywhere from 1.5 to 3%, generally speaking.
Okay, that's high. I would say it's higher than Taiwan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
anyway, go ahead.
Then then we'd have to figure out what that is. Okay. Then a redemption fee is if I pay the money, if I borrow the money for 2 years and I pay it back in 1, I have to pay a redemption fee of 4.5%, right? Because I've borrowed the money and the person has lent me the money on the understanding that they're going to get paid a certain amount of money by the end of 2 years, at the end of the period, right?
So if you pay it early, if you end the contract early, you have to pay a redemption fee. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Overrun fee. Let's say I set the term as being I want to borrow money for 24 months, and I actually have to keep borrowing it after that 24 months. Well, I'm going to have to pay a fine, if you like, to continue borrowing.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Okay. So that's called
and then the
overrun fee.
interest rate. Yeah, and then the interest rate is the interest rate. And the reason why I've put a variable rate of between 10 to 15% is because we might sit there and look at some projects as being low credit risk or low risk, and therefore we'll give them a lower one. And if you want to sit there and go, well, we're going to fund people who can't find money under traditional routes or avenues, then the reason why they can't find money is because it's a risky project, and therefore finance costs more money, right?
Okay, right. Okay, so that's the overrun, right? That is extending beyond the original period, right?
Now that's not an overrun, but an interest rate is based upon the risk of the project.
Okay, right.
Right, the risk and the asset value of the project.
So it's that high, 10 to 15% right now? Is that the normal for property in UK?
No. If you buy finance from a lender, a standard high street lender, it's as low as like 5%.
Okay, all right. Okay.
But we're not really. But actually, we're not talking. You see, if you borrow from there's a couple of reasons why we're not doing this, right? We're not competing with the likes of any high street lending. We're looking at delivering something which is unusual. And one of the factors that make it unusual is the LTV being up to 100%. So LTV stands for loan to value.
Okay.
And typically you would see some commercial borrowing 60 to 70%.
Okay. Right.
Which means that if you haven't bought the property,
never 100. Yeah.
Nobody ever does 100 anymore. There was once a time in 2007, 2006 where you could get 100%, and then the financial crisis happened, and people were like,
"I see."
Cool. But in certain circumstances, I think 100% is okay.
Okay. Right.
First charge or equivalent. That basically means if the borrower makes a complete mess of it and gets his numbers wrong and it all goes terribly wrong, then the lender owns the property.
Okay.
It defaults straight away to the lender. And when you have first charge, we also need to put caveat in there that there's no second charges. And second charge meaning that it's a queue of debtors. Right.
Okay, I see.
So first charge means you're the first in the queue, and
priority.
Also if you stipulate
To claim the assets,
and if you also and you also stipulate that nobody else can be in that queue other than you.
Okay, all right.
Valuation from a RICS or equivalent, so different stages. So what does that look like? Okay, so now we're talking about how does this work as in terms of a business mechanism.
Okay.
So the borrower takes $1 million. So the application fee is then 20,000, and then the interest that they pay at 10% is 100 per year. Right. So JCF property, I should have called it TAP, but anyway, JCF property takes 100% of the application fee. You've straight away designed an income stream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 20%, that's $20,000 for every million.
Mm-hmm.
Interest rate, so the interest, the investor split is 7 and 3. So of that 100,000, 70,000 goes to the investors, the people who are putting money into the actual property.
Mm-hmm.
And then JCF gets 3% for managing and running it.
Okay.
So if you take then 3% of, no, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. That should be interest. Okay, so forgive me. So I've got my numbers slightly wrong here. So where you see the words interest fee, this split here, that's on the assumption that on the interest rate here, we're talking about 10%.
Right.
In reality, then, if that's 100,000, then it's not 7% of 100. It's
70%.
It's 7. Yeah, exactly. It's 7% of this 10%.
Okay.
So that should be 70% of that 100.
Right.
So what does that mean? So what that means then is the business TAP takes $50,000 in the first year out of every million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in reality, what does that mean? It means then that the borrower, out of every million, has to can allocate a fee of $120,000 in the first year, and then has to come up with $100,000 every year that they're in contract.
Okay.
This now becomes, I mean, the percentages might not be right, but the concept is understandable. And if you're looking at investing in the ICO, and you want to understand how much profit there is, or how's it going to work, then we can sit there and say, well, our management team of advisors are these people. That's the credibility behind the project. The operations element is going to cost, it's going to cost, I don't know, I'm making this up. It's going to cost $500,000 a year in salary. And I've just made that up, right? So, well, how are you going to make the 500,000 then? Well, we're going to make the 500,000 by, and we've got the numbers here. So if we're making 50,000 out of every million, we need to do 10 million in terms of turnover just to pay for the operational cost in the first year. Right? So is 10 million doable?
So sorry, backtrack that a bit. I lost track of the last few numbers.
Okay. So operationally,
right,
TAP will, I'm just making this figure up, right?
Right.
The operational cost of TAP is $500,000. That's staff, technology, infrastructure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's the operational cost per year, what do we need to make to break even? Well, we need to make 500,000, right? And if we're getting a fee of 50,000 from every 1 million,
right,
we need to lend 10 million to make that fee.
Right. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's slight nuances there because of what happens in year 2 and so on and so forth. But let's assume that it's just 50,000 on every year.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then you've got to say, is achieving 10 million in the first year doable? And indeed, if we do 10 million in year 1, and we're saying that in year 1 we're going to lend $10 million worth of finance to 5 investors, right? And I mean, like, let's think about it. You wanted to raise like 7 to 10 million, right? So on your project, so that one project would be one project would reach that number. Then add to that Henry and the Lings, and you've already smashed your targets, haven't you?
Okay, all right. So yes, I understand.
All of that. Then now you can now we've got a plan for okay. So when you want to do a tokenization share and a split, you can tell people what they're going to get a share of.
Right. Okay. All right. There is one question though about this, is that are we doing a money lending service as what you just described, or is ICO a different kind of service to secure finance? Okay, the reason why I'm asking this is I understand, I wouldn't say 100%, but I understand the borrow lending, you're talking about in this example. Okay.
Okay, so so ICO as a service. Well,
because that's
I mean,
basically right, a money lender. However, ICO are I'm not sure if to a different degree, a lesser degree, also let's say real estate tokenization. Okay. I think it's more like, like you are taking a piece, owning a piece of the property, right? Like you are entitled to certain rights associated with this property. In the case of a tokenization, for example. And I think this is different from pure lending, right?
Yeah, it is. So if you've got to have a structure to start from, right? So
right.
If that's the structure to start from, how is it going to be different?
Okay, right. So for example,
if you're going to say, well, all right, we've got a property a plot that's worth $1 million, and it's got $500,000 worth of construction costs. So that's 1.5 million, and then the overall value at the end of it will be 5 million. So there's a profit of 3.5 million.
Right.
So to tokenize that, you're still gonna have to have a level of you're gonna have to have some agreement by the developer as to, so Henry's gonna have to sit there and go, well, I'm happy with tokenizing it so that I'll share this much of the ownership and this much of the profit.
Right. Exactly. Right.
But this much of the ownership and this much of the profit, what are those percentages? And then if you sit there and say, well, all right, it's 20%, I don't know, ownership. What happens if I'm investing? I want my security that, if it all goes horribly wrong, I've still got something at the end of it.
Exactly.
I'll give you another example, right? Of this is something that's very real, and I've seen this happen more than once.
Right.
People will invest in somebody else who's going to do it as a service for them, and the projects don't work.
Okay.
And then the people who are organising it and doing the work walk away, and the investors are left with a project that is not profitable.
Incomplete. Yeah.
Well, it's not just incomplete; it's just not profitable.
Okay.
So they've invested 1.5 million, and the project is only going to make $500,000.
Okay.
They're going to lose $1 million, right?
Right.
So, and in which case, what happens? And it's kind of like, so all I guess what I'm saying is that this is the important stuff to figure out, because this is the service. This is where you're going to add value. Right? This is is what you're going to deliver, so that it is unique to the marketplace.
Right.
But I just don't see how. Fine, you can raise an ICO and maybe you'll get 15 million.
Right.
But you've still got to answer these basic fundamental questions of what is it you're actually delivering on, other than just an idea with some hot air.
Exactly, right. So I think for tokenization a property, essentially what you're doing or asking or inviting is, in a sense, to have more owners of the property. Okay, kind of like a crowdfund version of, it's kind of like how
that
people
already
use
happens,
shares.
Yun. Look at crowd property. Crowd property are a crowdsourcing, crowdfunding platform for property only.
Okay. Okay. Right.
And they do exactly that. And they don't talk about tokenization, they talk about fractionizing.
Right. Fractionizing.
And yet they still get money from investors, and they still get people investing, but they give them a guaranteed return of 8%.
Oh, really?
And they lend at 10%.
Oh, okay.
And they're making their money on the 2%.
I see. Okay. So that's the difference, right? They are earning on the difference of the borrow lending rate.
Exactly.
Right?
And they're fractionalizing the project, and it's they can do it on a tax deductible scheme. It's all registered. There's nothing kind of voodoo about it. The only difference there is that for the purchasing of a project or a purchasing of a property, you need to be able to put in 30% of the value. But for the actual construction work or refurbishment work, you have to they'll put in 100% of the value.
Okay. So seems like this is basically a crawl-based money lending service, right? I think judging from what, So it's a lending service, except that the lenders, there could be maybe hundreds to thousands or more.
Yeah, and what they've done, but that's what you're offering with a tokenization project, because you're sitting there saying that my property is worth X, and each token is worth $10. So how many tokens do you want? Oh, I'll buy 10 tokens, please. I'll buy 100,000 tokens, please.
Right.
And because each token is worth $10, because the property is worth $1 million, it's whatever the number is, right?
Right, Mike. But I see your point, but I do think there is a difference, between money lending service, and even a tokenized or fractionalized money lending service versus actually tokenizing the property itself. And that's a potentially...
What's the purpose of tokenizing it?
I'm sorry?
What is the purpose of tokenizing it?
Okay, so the purpose of tokenizing, I think, twofold. One is, from the different perspective from the landlord, right? It's about activating a property or to liquidate part of the property, which traditionally, if you want to liquidate your property, you have to sell it wholly, right? But with tokenize, it's possible.
You don't just get a mortgage. You don't have to sell it. If you've got
Right.
Yeah, you just remortgage. If you've got
Right.
I don't know.
But getting mortgage means that you have to pay interest rate, right? But here I'm talking about, I think the tokenization concept is really about sharing ownership. Like I'm willing to share a fraction of my ownership with somebody else, right? With all the associated benefits and rights.
Well, that's what a mortgage is. When you take out a mortgage, you don't own the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ownership, if you default on you only own the property as long as you repay the lender.
Right.
At the point at which you stop paying the lender the money and you break your contract, they take ownership of the property.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to say is, but if you do, if you are having fractional ownership, okay, I think, but isn't there a difference between, if you're doing it with the bank, for example, you have to pay interest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're tokenizing
well, why
properties
would I,
and selling
if you're tokenizing it, why would you, I don't understand. I wouldn't, why would I own 8 properties, right? Why would why would I tokenize it? Where's the value to me as the owner?
Oh, okay. So for example, let's say if I like to, I own this house, but I'd like to, and let's say this house is also generating a, rental stream, right? A rental income, for example. What I might want to do is to sell just, let's say, a third of that, right? Or to liquidate a third of that with somebody else. So that person can become, like me, an owner of the property, but with 1/3 of the rights and also 1/3 of the responsibility. So
why would I do that?
Okay, well, because when I liquidate that, I get cash for my relinquished rights. Right, so I guess that's part of the liquidation process. Also, that lowers my cost of ownership. Right, I'll give you another example. Okay, so the other example is something I faced while I was in PEI in Saddle Island. So let's say I want to go there, live, let's say, a few months of the year, not the whole year, but maybe just a few months, right? And I like a place to stay. So some people might consider renting, right? Whereas, but rental is rather costly compared to, let's say, ownership of a house, if you can actually afford. But, I may not have the capital to put the full house, or nor do I want to spend all the money to maintain the house, right? But if let's say I can find a few other people who are also interested to use the house, kind of like the shared, there's shared usage, shared economy.
So that's called timeshare.
Exactly. And I know, right now there's already people who are doing this. Let's say 2 or 3 friends, 5 or 6 friends, and they join together collectively to purchase a house, right? Like that, and they share the the rights to use the house at different periods of the different times of the year. So that's something that people are already doing with the current, except
that but that's been going on for 30-40 years. There's nothing new about that. There's nothing new about that. It's been going on for 30-40 years.
Exactly. I mean, this is definitely, I mean, if there's a need, then people figure out a way, right, to do this. And I think tokenized property just allows things like that to happen a lot easier, a lot faster.
But right? I don't see how Henry, have you asked Henry if he's understood? Have you explained that to Henry?
Okay.
I don't think he's going to sit there and go, "That's a great idea" for what he wants. I don't think that's his understanding, and I don't think that's the way in which you'll want to go.
Oh, okay.
Personally.
Well, I think okay that I think that's a good point. That's a good feedback. I think I'll probably have a conversation with him, but this is my current understanding about what he would expect or what he would like to see. Okay. He might be willing to, because they have expertise of identifying properties, purchase them or manage them, and create an operation that generates monthly, revenue profit, right? They have the mechanism, they have the know-how to do so. So they may well welcome investors, not lenders, investors, to join in on the project. So they would have less of a financial capital requirement or burden, right? And they're happy to share, right, part of the future revenue streams or profit streams with those investors. And I think this is what he's thinking about potentially doing tokenized projects.
Okay. So it's a joint venture
incentive. Exactly. The other angle, I think is international funding. Okay, because right now, he has access probably to Taiwanese financial institution only, right?
I think the thing is then, Shunyun, there needs to be a clarity on what is the actual service and the offer.
Okay.
Because once you have that clarity
to pay for, right?
Well, once you have that clarity and you've got examples, then people can understand what are they committing to, what are they investing in,
right. Okay.
What's the implication, what are the risk factors, and what's the reward.
Right. Okay.
Because at the end of that, then I can sit there and go, oh, all right, yeah, okay, fine. It's unusual in that it allows me to do this, this, and this, and this. I don't have to do anything. I just put my £10,000 in, or whatever it is I've got, and I'm going to get a return of 5%, or whatever it is. The other thing you've got to bear in mind right now is I can put my £10,000 in a bank, and I'll probably get 5%.
Right. Okay.
So why would I invest it in something which is a bit more risky when I can sit there and put it in the bank?
Okay. Obviously, the return has to be higher, right?
Exactly. So, I guess, but I just think there's all of the kind of, well, we're going to raise an ICO and we're going to split all of the tokens this way, that way. What is the fundamental service that's being offered?
Okay. Right.
That to me is just not clear, because we've spoken about half a dozen different options.
Okay.
Which is great because there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Right.
But if you're sitting there saying that and here's the other thing, you're using the real estate market is I don't know, 6 trillion or whatever the number was, and we want to get 5%.
Right.
Well, okay, how is this model going to capture that level? And in what way? I mean, and so I think there's no, giving the 5% figure of capturing the market. You need to do the how and the why.
Okay, right.
So I think asking Henry, not suggesting to Henry, look, I've got this model, what do you think? Just saying, Henry, what does tokenization mean to you? What's your ideal scenario? How will it work?
Okay, right.
If Henry sits there and goes, I haven't got a clue, I don't know, we'll go, all right, how do you currently borrow money? How do you currently fund projects? Okay, Henry, so you currently fund it this way. What's the advantages of doing it that way, and what are the disadvantages of doing it that way?
Right.
Then when we know that Henry has disadvantages, and that's what they are they solvable problems that a tokenized property solution can deliver on?
Okay.
And if they are, then you've got potential.
Right.
If they're not, then why would I bother using a tokenized property function?
Okay. Right. Okay. All right. So, okay. Well, okay. Obviously, these questions has to be answered by Henry. Okay. So,
well, they also have to be answered by you, Shunyun, because you're the one. You're also talking about Flourish being funded.
I do have some. But I can tell. I guess, from my perspective, part of the reason is that, some projects like these just aren't going to be able to, I guess, find finance in Taiwan, for example, by traditional means with the banking system, or it could be rather. Why is that? Okay, because so I do still think there's a fundamental difference between finding a borrowing money, right, versus finding an investor. Okay, to me, that's very different, right? It's kind of like I borrow money from the banks to start a business versus I get an investor to invest in the business, right, and become part owner, right?
But what does the investor get out of it?
The investor would get out, obviously, potential profits, future profits from the business operation, right? And also in the case of real estate, they will get, part ownership of the underlying properties as well.
Fundamentally, if I lend you $5 million, what are you going to give me in return? Well, I'll give you 50% of the ownership of the property, and I'll give you 10 grand a month. I'm just making this up, right? Okay, fine. You're paying an interest rate because $120,000 a year is an interest rate of 5 million, right? Whatever the percentage is.
Right.
And 50% ownership is the uplift between, where it starts and where it ends.
Okay, right.
Now, you call me an investor because that's the term that you want to use. Fundamentally, I'm lending you the money, and you're paying for it. It's a cost of finance for you.
Right. Okay.
Now, with property, you've got certain fundamentals which are, easily defined.
Right.
Such as the cost per square meter to build, the cost per square meter to rent, cost per square meter to sell, demand, area, a little bit of the ethics, a little bit of the kind of eco, which is developing more so now, but it's not significant.
Right.
And people are, and the reason, if you say to me, I can't get funding from a bank, then that means the project is a high risk, low reward project.
Okay.
And if you want to get funding for a high risk, low reward project, you have to pay more because you're more risky. You're a junk bond.
Okay. Right. Okay. I think that's a good okay. Yes. So I guess it's yeah, thanks for this. Okay, let me feedback one thing I learned from this conversation. I'll give an example of, I guess, Kevin, okay, who's representing some of the other Lin family's property, okay. So Kevin mentioned that there are land projects that are awaiting capital to be developed, okay, because it's kind of stalled because there's not additional capital to develop. So I guess part of the equation is when the future prospect of how much, a property can be developed and then be cash generating, but that requires effort and maybe even operations. Okay, which is exactly what Flourish is currently facing, right? We try to bring in operational expertise like Cameron's to be able to be profit producing, right? So it becomes an investable property, investable project. But that may not happen for all projects, and maybe a lot of projects lack those things. And so for the property owners, right, because they're unsure whether there is such prospect, so they will be hesitant to actually, I guess, to borrow from the bank unless they are willing to put in the time and effort to develop the land, to develop property, right? I think that's the main I guess the main scenario. On the other hand, they may, they also may be hesitant to sell their property, okay, in full, because they would still like to maintain part of that, right? Or I mean, even if they, so I guess there are I can see one use case, one scenario where maybe it's a landlord that is looking to liquidate, part of the land, but it will not make sense to either sell fully, right, as in the case, or it will be more difficult, right, because it could be like whole lands, whole areas for sale, which may not be able to find a buyer. But on the other hand, it also doesn't make sense to borrow money from the bank to do development because that requires time and effort. So
you're dealing with your use of words there, Chunyun, is maybe there might be a scenario where the landlord has this, but they want to liquidate, and maybe it's not real. It's not a real scenario because you're talking about maybes.
Okay.
Right. Typically, people want to borrow money. That's a statement of fact, right? People want to, why? Right. So that they can invest that money in a project that they believe will create more money.
Right.
Okay. Right. Regardless of whether or not it's to finance a shop, an idea, a concept, or a house, or a property, or 1,000 properties, it's irrelevant.
Right.
So then you sit there and all right, I've got to go.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. So use case. Talk to Henry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Find out what the ideas are. All
right. All right.
See you later.
So thanks. Yeah. Take care. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.